Welcome back. My guest in the seat today is the South African High Commissioner to Ghana, Her Excellency Jeanette Ndlovu. You're welcome to the show, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
By the way, your name sounds Zimbabwean. Any roots from that country?
Senna, you know, because of colonialism and the advent of people trying to move away from the colonialists, people in Southern Africa used to move back and forth between South Africa and present-day Zimbabwe. So, you know, you'll find a lot of Ndlovus in the whole of Southern Africa, actually, including in Zambia.
So that means that just as we have in West Africa, you have Benin, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, you have some nationals in these countries bearing Ghanaian names. You still have the same setup in the Southern African region?
We definitely do have that too.
You took office sometime in 2010. What are your thoughts about Ghana so far?
Well, I think so far I've had a wonderful time. I came here on the eve of the 2010 FIFA World Cup, and I must say that I was very impressed with the amount of enthusiasm that I found amongst Ghanaians, especially vis-a-vis soccer. And so far, you know, I have expanded my engagements with the peoples of Ghana, both in the NGO sector, in the business sector, in government, of course. So I am very excited that in terms of people-to-people contact, we are making great strides, and South Africans are coming here in large numbers. I see Ghanaians are also beginning to visit Southern Africa. So I'm really very excited that I think I came at the right time.
Have you noticed or seen any similarities with respect to our culture, traditions, and those of South Africans?
Absolutely. For example, your kenke is almost like our pap. And our pap, sometimes we don't ferment it, sometimes we do. I see even in terms of respect for other people and children respecting their elders, we find a lot of that in South Africa. I see the traditions that you practice when you have your traditional events, festivities, and so forth. I went to the Volta region the other day to the Kente Festival. I saw the pride of the Ghanaian people displayed in the wares of the Kente. So there's many similarities. There's differences, but those are just technical. But on the whole, I think we really do have a lot of similarities.
It's short, but should you be recalled tomorrow, what memories would you take along to South Africa?
Oh, very fond memories, and very fond memories of the people here. I think the first impression that you have when you go to any country, it is the people. The people here are extraordinarily very welcoming. They are very nice. And I've heard other people from other countries saying that it's a very peaceful country. You don't find some of the conflicts in Ghana that you find in other parts of Africa. So, yeah, you know, your fruits are just unbelievable. I just love your popo, you know. So that's what I'll tell people about. The people of Ghana is what really impressed me more than anything else.
So they live the word, we are hospitable people.
Absolutely, I think you know that.
By the way, is this your first time in West Africa?
I started my diplomatic career at the United Nations in New York. And I used to fly from Johannesburg via Dakar to the United Nations. But this is my first time in West Africa. As I was growing up, we used to talk about the legacy of Kwame Nkrumah, his commitment to the total liberation of Africa. He was a hero. He really was our hero, but it was a hero in distant lands. And the other day I went to his graveyard and I was just so proud. I was sharing this with my friends around the world and saying, I am finally in the land of Nkrumah. And I came during the centenary celebrations of his life. Yes.
Okay. There seemed to be some increased interest in Ghana as a destination for South Africans. Why?
Part of it, I think, is what happened during the World Cup. I think emotionally South Africans have always had a lot of respect and admiration for Ghanaians. And I think that emanated from the selfless commitment to the total liberation of Africa that Nkrumah was preaching. And so people were sort of like interested to find out about the leader from this country who is so selfless in his commitment to the liberation of the continent. But I think with the World Cup then and the South Africans embracing the Black Stars and the people of South Africa receiving the Black Stars in the townships and them going to see Nelson Mandela, I think that also contributed towards just the general good feeling about Ghanaians. And of course, like what I said before, the Ghanaians also behaved very well. They came out of the World Cup with dignity, even though, I mean, the way they exited, if it was another country, they would have fought and, you know, made a lot of noise about it. But the way the Black Stars, the leadership of the Black Stars, the people of Ghana accepted the outcome of the Suarez effect, I think that is what has really made South Africans respect Ghanaians even more. And you hoisted the African flag and made the whole continent proud. Actually, it went even beyond the continent. When I was talking to some of my former colleagues in Los Angeles, they were telling me that we are rooting for Ghana, we are rooting for Ghana. So Ghana has earned its mark not only on the African continent, but internationally.
So the Black Stars did a trick in terms of getting the attention of South Africans into Ghana.
I think so. You know, when I first came here, most of the questions were around crime in South Africa, about how it's going to be so scary for people to go to South Africa. There was a lot of propaganda. Some countries were saying, we are going to be on standby in case South Africa is not able to pull this through. But I think when we did what we did, not only as South Africa, but even as a continent, supporting each other, making sure that we wear, you know, the Black Stars uniform when we were out of the World Cup, I think that is what did it. But now you see increased number of people coming to our office. I see South Africans coming here to Ghana to come and consult with us about business opportunities. And one of the things that they always mention is the smooth manner in which their entry into Ghana is facilitated. So there aren't too many obstacles in terms of coming over here. And what I'm mostly excited about is recently we had a team of people who are in the tourism industry. Because you see, I think most of us as Africans, when we think of holiday, we think about New York and London and Paris. I think it's about time that we start to visit each other's tourist destinations. So I'm excited that these people are coming here, but they are also going to work with Ghanaians to make sure that the industry here is also improved, the tourism industry.
I was actually coming to that. South Africa has such a huge industry in terms of tourism. Now, Ghana is just a minor player, if we want to say it. How do you think that the two countries can collaborate in helping each other to prop up the various sectors?
I think there is a need, and I have picked up, you know, the sense that there are people who think that there's great potential in Ghana. Yes, it is true that your tourism industry is not that well developed, but there's great potential. Right now, the other day, somebody called me and said, there's African Americans who want to bring a group of African Americans to Ghana. I think if there are nice facilities that can be jointly developed between the companies in South Africa and the companies in Ghana. For us, tourism is a major foreign exchange earner. So I think we can share information, share best practices to make sure that both peoples, the Ghanaians and the South Africans, benefit from the development of the tourism industry. But I think, I mean, we have oceans. I mean, look, coastline, the beauty here, it's just there. It's just a question of putting up infrastructure to make sure that you know, people then get attracted to this tourist side.
Having been here for a while, what do you think is impeding, or in the past impeded such frequent interaction between Ghana and South Africa?
I think usually after you come from a traumatic experience, like we came out of the trauma of apartheid, and of course you also had your own problems, the coups and the instability, then you become inward looking. You don't explore the opportunities that are out there to make sure that we fight poverty, because I think today the greatest challenge that we have as Africans is to deal with the issue of poverty, because poverty then also introduces the element of instability. When you have a few people who are super rich and the rest of the people are poor, then you have these kinds of coups and counter coups and all of that. And I think we were busy building our own institutions of governance, building structures, ensuring that when we start to engage the world, we engage it in such a way that it can be of mutual benefit. So I think we have passed that era of building institutions, and now we are looking at the continent, and of course the African Union has given us the lead. It's in the leadership role of ensuring that there's the economic integration of the African continent. And so this is the time when we as Africans need to begin to interact with each other more. We need to visit each other's countries more. We need to depend on our own information in terms of what happens in South Africa and what happens in Ghana, as opposed to listening to these media outlets who, for the most part, give a very negative impression about our continent. So I think now you have this optimism on the African continent and the belief that Ghana has certain resources and South Africa has certain expertise, and vice versa. If we share that information, then that can only benefit the peoples of the continent. That will help us to deal with the serious challenge that we still have of poverty in the whole African continent. Of course, South Africa, you know, we have been able to deal with some of the problems because economically we are better than Ghana, for example. But it does not mean that South Africa does not have some of the problems that Ghana is experiencing or is facing. So it's important that we share experiences, we work together for the betterment of the continent.
Let me ask you, what's the level of interest of Ghanaian businessmen and women in South Africa in terms of also trying to explore and invest in your country?
The same way that you have Game, you have Shoprite Checkers, you have all these South African companies, you have beer companies coming here, you have mining companies. I think Ghana is beginning to be very attractive to many companies in South Africa. And what you are seeing now, there's a lot of movement between the two countries. And I'm hoping that the kind of dialogue in the economic field that we are having is going to benefit both the people of Ghana and the people of South Africa, because gone are the days when Africa used to be a source of raw materials only. And then when they come back to us with value added, then they're sold to us at exorbitant prices. I think we have an agenda of the industrial program for the development of Africa. So I think now you see that we are engaging with each other more. We sit down and talk about what needs to happen. And Ghana, for example, is also in a leadership position in ECOWAS to ensure that there's political stability in this part of the world. You cannot have economic development if there's no political stability. So we are very encouraged by the fact that Ghana has played a leadership role in bringing about peace and stability through ECOWAS into West Africa. We work with SADC to, ensure that, whatever problems arise, we become part of the solution. So I think because of Ghana's leadership in many of these areas, including even in multilateral fora like the United Nations, Ghana has very capable diplomats who not only promote the interest of Ghana, but promote the interest of West Africa and of the African continent in general.
You're still watching Diplomatic Perspective, and my guest is the South African High Commissioner to Ghana, Her Excellency Jeanette Ndlovu.